he ended up messaging me on Tinder that he was gonna go, and I was like, awesome, my plan worked. And then about an hour later, he texted me and said I had good birthing hips, so I never talked to him.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. So Brian Kohberger has just appeared in court. We knew it was going to be a brief status hearing, and so what has happened is he has waived his right to a speedy trial, and so we are probably going to see him again on June 26th. When we saw him today, he looked like he had small cuts on his face, possibly from shaving. One wonders how he's going to look different 6 months down the line. Now, thus far, there's been one glaring hole in what we know about Brian, one piece missing from the puzzle, his dalliances with the opposite sex. Well, were there any? Enter Hayley Ouellette, a 26-year-old OB-GYN nurse. When Hayley, who is from Pennsylvania, saw Brian's mugshot, she realized Kohberger was the same man that she went on an uncomfortable Tinder date with when she was in college. I think they both studied psychology. Hayley seems to be the real deal because she was able to provide the Daily Beast with texts that she sent to friends, and one friend responded that she remembered Hayley telling her about her nightmare Tinder date. She's also appeared on News Nation, and so she does seem to be legit. And obviously how this story broke is she recognized Kohberger's face. She then went on to TikTok and told her story, and that is how it sort of has come onto the radar. According to the Daily Beast, Ouellette said that after matching on Tinder, both of them went to go and see an action movie. This was in December 2015, before Kohberger drove her back to her dorm at Penn State Hazleton. It would be interesting to know what vehicle he was driving. Once back on campus and briefly talking inside his car, she said Kohberger started being really pushy about coming into her room to watch another movie. The article then also provides some additional background leading up to the date and then the uncomfortable things that took place in the date and the abrupt ending to the date. But before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. If you're enjoying the coverage here and the discussions, head on over to patreon.com/TCRS. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. So Ouellette told the Daily Beast that she spoke to Kohberger all morning, that was in December, and in the afternoon on the day of their date. And then he mentioned that he wanted to go to the movies, and he asked her if she would like to go with him. And she agreed to the date, and she said that Kohberger had a movie in mind. And while she can't actually remember the title, she said she didn't really care to see whatever it was. Now, I must say, although she seems to remember him not buying her popcorn, that is a little bit of a problem in terms of legitimacy, that she doesn't remember the actual movie they went to watch. Anyway, she said, I got off work and met him at the theater, and then he paid for her movie ticket, but he didn't want popcorn, so she ended up buying some for herself. She said, we watched the movie, and then he said he would take me back to my dorm. So there's a little prod there at Brian's lack of social etiquette, not buying her popcorn. Bear in mind, in 2015, Brian was around 20 or 21 years of age. According to the article, after driving her back to her dorm, Ouellette said that Kohberger ended up parking his car in a move she thought meant, well, that he just wanted to talk, because they didn't really talk during the movie. She doesn't remember exactly what they spoke about, which is also a little bit problematic. But she said that after chatting for a while, she told Kohberger that she wanted to go back to the dorm room to check to see if her roommate needed her. Now, it's quite interesting that she remembers that aspect, but who knows, maybe he was kind of a boring dude to have a conversation with, and what he said wasn't particularly memorable. So anyway, she says that her roommate wasn't actually there and did not actually see Kohberger, which is also a little bit problematic here. Anyway, back inside her dorm room, both of them apparently sat down to pick another movie to watch together. In her TikTok, she described Kohberger trying to rub her shoulders and tickle her. Now, this is where I think it actually gains a little bit of legitimacy. Instead of describing him as a jerk and as this total kind of incel guy, she said that although it made her a little bit uncomfortable, she sort of went along with it in the beginning at least. So I don't know if there are any alarm bells here, if Hayley allowed him in and they actually chose to watch a second movie, she sort of went along with picking one. It suggests that Hayley saw something in him after all. I'd actually be interested to know what attracted her to him, at least in the beginning. Anyway, the article goes on to say, when she asked him why he was touching her, Ouellette said in a video that he got super serious and denied he was doing that, which he described as gaslighting. Now, this part does sound familiar, doesn't it? When the manager at the brewery in Pennsylvania confronted Brian, this was also in December, about making creepy remarks to his staff, he also seemed shocked and he denied that as well. It seems like a default setting, doesn't it? A sort of two-face aspect. The nice normal guy and then the creepy jerk. According to the Daily Beast, Kohberger then followed her to a communal dorm female bathroom and waited outside the door. Now, if there aren't any clear red flags, well, this one is pretty clear. And one has the feeling that Brian didn't want her to get away, kind of thing. And so that is exactly what she says. She said, I thought that was the weirdest thing. So I was like, I need to get this guy to leave. But I didn't want to be mean, so I started to pretend to loudly throw up. She said, after a minute or two, he messaged me on Tinder saying he was going to go. So it seemed like she stayed in the bathroom and simply waited for him to lose interest and leave. But just think of that as an allegory for 1122 King Road. Think of the house as the bathroom and him waiting on the outside for her or for them, the kids inside. But also think overall how he experiences that whole evening. Anticipation leading to humiliation, expectation leading to disappointment and ultimately emasculation. He deserves it, but the bottom line is that he comes away frustrated and likely angry. How often did he have these experiences with women? But it gets worse. She goes on to say, after an hour or so of him being gone, he messaged me and said I had good birthing hips. And I just never messaged back. So one wonders whether he thought that she was going to, invite him over again. Anyway, a comment like that makes you wonder what sort of content Brian was consuming, perhaps excessively, online. According to the Daily Beast, both of them didn't speak to one another again after Kohberger had sent that, let's call it a questionable follow-up text about her hips. She said that while Kohberger was very polite and nice during the date, he completely changed gears when the pair got to her dorm. So, it's not as though she's saying that he was a jerk all the way through, and that does actually ring true to some extent. Again, do you see here, you get a sense that there is a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde aspect to him. He is two people in a sense. As I say, the normal Mr. Nice Guy, a role that he seems to be quite familiar with, and then the weirdo, the creep, that we've heard quite a lot about from different sources, which seems to be possibly the real person. Isn't that the real Brian lurking under that mask? And if you think about a guy studying criminology who ultimately commits a crime, well, the guy studying criminology is Mr. Nice Guy. The weirdo, the creep, is the guy who actually commits the crime. Isn't that the real person? And so if you think about her words, she says, he just seemed very different and I felt a bit uncomfortable. Well, wasn't she actually seeing through the mask, and weren't her intuitions, her female intuitions, actually serving her well? What do you think? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.